Welcome to another weekly stock market update. Today is September 29, 2019. In this weekly stock market update, we will review and analyze the stock market price action from last week and establish some possible near-term scenario for the stock market. Near the end of this update, we will analyze Alibaba stock for possible trade opportunity after it has dropped more than 5% on Friday and 9.06% or $16.53 for the week. The stock market had another wild swing week. The S&P 500 closed at 2,961.79, down 1.01% or 30.28 points. Most of the damage was done on Tuesday by the impeachment inquiry news and capped off by the trial balloon on Friday from the Trump administration on possible delisting Chinese company from the U.S. stock market. After this market sold off on the trial balloon, the U.S. Treasury and the White House were walking back on that consideration on Saturday by issuing a statement indicating that it has no plan on delisting Chinese company at this time. So let's take a look at the S&P 500 and see what has transpired and see what we could expect for the coming week. In the past 3 weeks, the weekly price action formed a bearish evening star pattern right beneath the all-time high of 3,027.98. And on the daily chart, the S&P 500, we noticed there was that evening star type of pattern from prior week. This here, and that put us on alert to watch for potential pullback. And one of the levels that we're watching was essentially this pivot low. And if it come down below this 29.7857, then we're essentially looking for this gap to get filled. As you can see, it broke down from this evening star pattern last week, and on Friday it got close to filling this gap here. So we'll continue to watch for the potential of having this gap completely filled. But we could see a potential bounce off of the low from last week and in the coming week. But if we do see a bounce, it essentially have to take out this high in order to put in a higher high, higher low to continue this zigzag upward formation. Otherwise, we'll be looking for this thing to come back down and take out this low and into this level here, 29.3908. Then we'll be watching for these gap to get filled at 29.21.86. and 28.91.85. Then the major support level that we'll be watching will be somewhere down here near the 28.34.97. The Nasdaq 100 closed at 7,681.58, down 1.81 or 141.97 point. And on the Nasdaq weekly chart here, we see that it had a inside bar breakdown. And on the daily, we also notice the evening star pattern here. And once again, we're put on alert to watch for a potential pullback. And we're watching for a pullback below this 77.4708 and come in and fill this gap. So you see that it did come down below this 77.47.08 and fill the gap. And on Friday, actually booked to this trend line here, but it did close above this trend line. So in the coming week, we'll be watching to see would it continue to get a bounce, and if it get a bounce, we need to see it bounce above this 75.33 to maintain this higher high, higher low formation. Otherwise, if it doesn't get above this pivot or even this pivot, then we're essentially looking for a lower high, lower low, coming back down and watch to take out this pivot low here from last week, essentially the Friday's low, then work down here and watch for minor support at these pivot low, and eventually come down to this potential major support level at 73.56.27. Now let's take a look at the E-mini S&P 500, the ES. You can see on the weekly chart here, it is forming a pivot high type of a pattern here. So we'll be watching for it continue to pull back and get below this level here. So looking at the daily, we essentially was watching this evening star type of pattern as well, just like the cash index, and it broke down, and we were looking for this gap to get filled here. It came close to it, and it did stay above this potential support level at 2944.09. So next week we'll be watching to see would it be able to get a bounce, and if it does, it need to essentially take out the all-time high, 3029.5, to put in a higher high and a higher low. To maintain this zigzag formation, upward zigzag formation. But if it failed to do that, then we're essentially looking for this thing to pull back below the 2944 level and come down, fill this gap, and then get down here. There's a gap here that need to be filled. So we're essentially watching for these pivot low for potential minor support, and see would it get down to the 20x1775. And for the E-mini Nasdaq 100, the NQ, we see that there is that inside bar breakdown from last week. And if we look at the daily, we see that it also got this selling candle here and formed this evening star from prior week, and essentially it broke down to this support level 77.82 and came down, filled this gap, and right now it's getting a little bit of a bounce off of this supporting trend line. So again, next week, just like the ES, we're basically looking for a possible bounce. Unless it could take out this pivot here, then we're essentially looking for it to reverse back down and take out this pivot low here, the Friday low, and work itself down to the 73.88 So we'll be watching for potential support here off of these pivot low. Now looking at the ETF on the SPY, the S&P 500 ETF, see that it got a pivot high reversal on the weekly, and then on the daily, essentially got a breakdown from this evening star pattern, and it dipped below the 294.22 and bounces back. So we'll be watching for a possible bounce next week, unless it could take out an all-time high above this 302.46 area or slightly higher than that. This is the all-time high here. And then we'll be watching for it to come back down, take out this low, fill these gaps down here, and work toward the 282.79. And looking at the QQQ, the ETF for the Nasdaq 100, similarly to the cash index, essentially got a inside bar breakdown on the weekly. And then on the daily, we got the evening star breakdown, and now it came down and filled this gap, moved below this 189.68, and sitting right on the trend line here. So next week, if we see a bounce, unless it could take out this pivot high, essentially this pivot high to put in a higher high and then a higher low, then we are essentially looking for this thing to come back down, take out this pivot low, move below this trend line, and continue to work itself down, and looking for these pivot low here for potential minor support, and eventually looking for it to come down and possibly test the 179.2. Let's take a look at Alibaba here. Alibaba got this weekly chart here. You can see that it formed some sort of a double bottom here back in October of last year. And then it moved back up to this 195.72, and then pulled back down to below the 150 area and sit at the 147.95. You can see it came back up and tried to break away from this 179.88 resistance. In the prior week, we saw a breakout on that. Then last week, we got a big sell-off because of the news about the impeachment on Tuesday and also the damaging news on Friday about the potential of delisting Chinese stock from the U.S. stock market. So let's take a look at the daily chart here. We see this support level. We actually got broken above that, but looking at this candle, this is basically a selling spike candle, which is not a good sign of a breakout. Then followed you with a sort of a doji spinning top type of candle. So it kind of set up for a potential pullback, and you can see that it pulled back. And then on Friday, with that news book about the possibility of delisting, then Alibaba really took a dive and lost over 5% on Friday. So for the week, Alibaba lost over 9% or a little bit over $16.50. So now we are going to see will it get a bounce, because on Saturday, the U.S. Treasury and the White House put out a statement to kind of walking back on the consideration or the trial balloon that they put out on Friday about delisting Chinese company from the U.S. stock market. So we might see a little bit of a bounce next week, and I wouldn't be surprised that we see a gap open on Monday. So you can see, looking at this 60-minute chart here, we already got a little bit of a bounce toward the close in the last hour and a half on Friday. See this little bit of a pivot low here of candle pattern with this hammer candle, basically a buying spike candle, and with this solid bullish candle up. So next week, if there is a bounce, we're basically looking for Alibaba to possibly move up to this 170.95 potential resistance level. If it could break above that, then we'll trail it to look for 178.23. Otherwise, if it unable to get back up to this 170.95 and break below the 163.15 once again, then essentially I'm looking for Alibaba to come back down and test this potential trend line here somewhere around 156 area. If you find the content in this video to be useful and informative, give it a thumbs up. And if you are not a subscriber on my YouTube channel, click on the subscribe and the notification icon so you won't be missing any future video from me. Good luck on your trading, and thank you for watching.